Why is drifting so cool? Look, I'm not a gearhead. I don't even play that many racing games, but this to me is what peak performance looks like. You turn, you slide, you floor it. Even if you've never played a realistic racing sim, you've probably earned some boost by drifting in Mario Kart. Maybe you've burned some space rubber in Star Wars Squadrons. Or drifted a freaking jet in the criminally underrated Tom Clancy's Hawks. Hell, I've even drifted on a horse in Red Dead Redemption and a dog in Monster Hunter Rise. Drifting is practically a standard feature in games these days. So then why isn't NASCAR full of sideways NASCARs? Well, despite how absolutely sick that would be, they don't do it because drifting in real life isn't efficient. In fact, it actually slows you down. The big sticky tires and giant spoilers that professional racers use basically glue the cars to the asphalt, so they can just cruise through corners. If you're from around these parts, it's likely your first introduction to drifting was from the 2006 film The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. As ludicrously over the top as that movie was, it did get one thing right. Drifting, like a lot of cool things, came from Japan. Specifically, the winding mountain passes known as Tulge. Back in the 1960s, daring racers would drive at high speeds through the squiggly S-bends that, ironically, were designed to limit the speed of drivers. Unlike the wide turns of a racetrack, it was faster to slide through these tight corners and lose a little momentum than it was to slow down like some square-ass salaryman. They were also driving normal cars that didn't have protraction control to keep them nailed to the road. So, they learned to control the drift. Usually the goal of these illicit mountain races was simply to get the fastest time on a certain stretch of road, but sometimes drivers would face off in dangerous drifting duels. This is where drift culture got its start. Underground. On a mountaintop. Drifting was cool because drifting was for the bad boys. One of those bad boys was Kunimitsu Takahashi, who pioneered drifting in competitive races, earning himself the title the father of drifting. He got his start in motorcycle driving, but after injuring himself in a race, he decided to take a break by driving sideways in a race car on purpose. Takahashi's audacious style of driving won him the All Japan Touring Car Championship multiple times. It also inspired a generation of competitive drifting enthusiasts, including a young man named Keiichi Tsuchiya, perhaps better known by his nickname, the Drift King. Tsuchiya got his start in illegal street racing, then got wildly popular and decided to go pro in 1977. But he was always a street racer at heart. In 1987, he made an infamous 23-minute video called Plusby, where he carved up the Usai mountain pass in his Toyota AE86 Corolla. The video got his racing license suspended, but that only made him cooler. It's hard to overstate how important Tsuchiya is to the culture of drifting. In fact, his life story inspired the manga and anime Initial D, which, in turn, inspired the Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift. Fun fact, Tsuchiya was actually a stunt coordinator and stunt driver in Tokyo Drift. He even got a cameo in the movie as a fisherman. It's partly through Tsuchiya's efforts that modern drifting has matured from an underground hobby into a global competition. Drifting tournaments aren't about speed. Instead, drivers are evaluated on exactly how sick their drifts are. Some even include thrilling tandem face-offs in a nod to the original head-to-head Tolge races. Even if it's gone a little mainstream, drifting is still very cool because it's still very hard to pull off. Drivers need to lose traction in their rear tires, something drivers are usually trying to avoid. And then, once they're sliding in the right direction, they need to turn their front wheels in the wrong direction and then maintain this very unstable slide for as long as possible. It's essentially a controlled loss of control.
When you drift, if you ain't out of control, you ain't in control.
Obviously, there is way more to it than that, but if you want to know how to actually pull off a drift, I suggest you check out the Drift Bible. It's another video by the Drift King, where he shows you how to pull off a drift. All this drift talk really makes me want my own cool drift name. Why don't you give me some ideas in the comments below? The other roguish part of drifting is that you gotta make some adjustments to your car. And by adjustments, I mean kinda fuck it up. Let me give you an example. One of the most common modification drift heads do is weld the rear differential together. This does make it easier to drift, but because the rear tires can't spin independently anymore, it makes it worse at being a car. And don't even get me started on the kind of modifications competitive drifters make to their cars. It takes a lot of work to make a car go sideways like it's in a video game, and it turns out that most of that work is done before the car even gets to the track. Boring. That's the reality of drifting that video games thankfully don't try to recreate. They strip out all the dull and complicated parts and throw in some turbo boost because hell yeah. The end result isn't something that just looks good, it feels good too. But while most video game drifting takes place in pro racers or arcade racers or non-racers, there is a genre I haven't mentioned yet where drifting is presented a little more accurately. Rally racing. Remember when I said NASCARs and Formula 1 racers generally don't drift? That's because they're driving on asphalt, which their humongous tires stick to like glue. But in rally, the tracks can be asphalt or gravel or snow or some combination of all three, which is why rally racers power slide through these hairpin turns. Even if the driver isn't accelerating through the whole turn, the drift allows them to maintain most of their speed. In this instance, it's faster than the alternative. You'll notice this detail in many of the more realistic rally racing series, like Dirt, or WRC, or even Forza Horizon. But I found a real appreciation for it in the minimalist rally racer, Art of Rally. Obviously, this is not a driving sim, but don't let the vaporwave aesthetics deceive you. There are some very advanced driving physics under the hood. There's also a charmingly approachable history lesson integrated into the game that lets you experience the progression of rally racing through the decades. And in doing so, teaches you a valuable lesson. Mo horsepower, mo problems. Dune Kasu, the developer of Art of Rally, actually went to real-life rally school to make sure he was getting all the game's details just right. And from the sound of it, he was thrown right in the deep end.
We just put you on a stage and just got you to go faster and faster and faster and faster. And yeah, it was very scary. It was terrifying. He almost lost it, almost been in the car a couple times.
Luckily, he lived, and it wasn't the only school he tried.
So I went to Dirtfish the year after, and that was more of like a start from zero. Everyone that we did the course with became pretty proficient. We were kind of trying to challenge the instructor times or beat them sometimes.
Kasu explained to me the fundamental skill of blending, acceleration, and braking, which you need in order to maintain that loss of traction during a drift. His experience with Rally School helped him understand and incorporate that into the game's mechanics, along with a very real understanding of the different terrains that rally racers encounter. That might seem contradictory to the game's low-poly smooth surfaces, but there's a reason it looks that way. With so much of the visual detail stripped away, it's easier to focus on how good the game feels. And how good it feels to drift. Which makes a lot of sense. Kasu's previous project was a game called Absolute Drift. In Art of Rally, drifting can feel a little unforgiving at first, as you spin out of control or slide off the track completely. But you gradually learn how to finesse the cars through hairpins and S-curves. Eventually, you'll start to subconsciously evaluate turns, determining when you need to brake and how much acceleration your drift can handle without even thinking about it. You start to learn when a drift just feels right. Which is precisely why the game is so satisfying. It reflects all the best parts of actual drifting. The skill, the history, the enticing danger of driving sideways. All without requiring you to fuck up your own ride. And while it doesn't reward you with turbo boost, you won't win races without mastering it.
So racing is kind of like, I don't want to say boring, but it's pretty mundane compared to drifting. I like going sideways a lot. It's just more fun.
Fun is the key word here. It's not that there's something inherently wrong with foregoing realism in favor of fun, but sometimes you get a game like Art of Rally that finds that perfect balance between the two, where drifting can be fun and realistic and very, very cool. Jenna, do you have any drift names? What should my drift name be?
What? Oh god, a Clayton Ashley drift game name is so tricky.
President Drift?
Maybe like Archduke Drift.
Archduke, yeah, Duke Drift. Oh, I like the alliteration of Duke of Drift. Is there something that's not nobility or authoritarian?
Comrade Drift.
Comrade Drift.